The 2024 Paris Olympics has its opening ceremonies tomorrow. But before we get swept into the successes and scandals of these games, let's look at what happened in the past Olympics. Specifically, I want to know which Olympic sport each country has done the best in. That's the challenge I made for myself, and let me tell you, it was quite a process. So let's get into it. Before showing you guys my findings, I just want to quickly explain how I determine which Olympic sport each country is best at. First, I needed some data points to go off of. And of course, what better Olympic data is there than medals? That's how the IOC judges success, so that's how I'll do it too. However, there is a difference between how the Olympics rank medal counts and how I'm going to look at them. The official Olympic ranking system heavily prioritizes gold medals. They rank countries based off of how many gold medals they won, instead of total medals. So for example, in last edition's Tokyo Olympics, the Bahamas and Kosovo, who only won 2 medals but both were gold, finished ahead of Ukraine, who had 19 medals but only 1 was gold. Although most people don't have a problem with this system, I don't like it. Why even give out 3 different medals if you're going to mainly just focus on 1? It's against the spirit of the games. What I like to think is that gold, silver, and bronze matter for the individual athletes or team success. But when viewing an entire nation's haul, every medal should count as equal. I might just think this to lessen the blow when a person I'm rooting for finishes in silver, but I don't care. It's my video. I'm going to let the color of the medal dictate individual success, and focus on total medals in my calculations. So now I just have to look at each nation and see which sport has won them the most medals, right? Well, you could do that like this Reddit user did, but there's a problem with this. A sport like athletics has 48 events in one Olympics, compared to a sport like badminton with only 5. A nation could win a medal in every badminton event, yet meddling in less than 13% of the athletic ones would make that sport the country's most successful. I think that this is unfair. So how do you fix this? In 2 steps. First, look at the percentages of medals won in a sport per event held. For example, there are 593 total swimming events in Olympics attended by Australia. The country has 210 medals in that sport, meaning they statistically get a medal in 35% of swimming events. So back to our previous example, badminton would now be the hypothetical country's most successful sport, and rightfully so. The second step is to separate the individual and team sports. Since team sports only have 2 events per Olympics, their percentages are greatly overblown. So I made a map of each country's most successful individual and team sport. Just quickly, I define team sport as an event where you have teammates and only 1 competition per gender. So sports like tennis and equestrian are included as individual sports, even though there are some teamwork elements involved. Finally, just 4 really quick points, then I'll show you the results, I promise. 1 is that I only use sports currently in the Olympics, so sports like baseball and softball were sadly not included. 2, for individual sports, they've needed to have held at least 15 total events in past Olympics, just so the percentages are not overly saturated. So new sports like sport climbing and skateboarding were not included. The one exception is with triathlon and Bermuda, because that's clearly their best sport. Their only other medal is a 1976 bronze in boxing. 3, I only included medals that were won under the current iteration of a nation. So USSRs don't count for Russia, Yugoslavia doesn't count for any Balkan nation, medals only count if you won it under your current name. And finally, it should be highlighted that the total number of events per sport were only calculated from the Olympics a specific country attended. For example, Hungary didn't attend the 1920 and 1984 games, meaning those Olympics are not included in their event counts. So even though there's been 593 total swimming events, only 554 of those are included in Hungary's calculations. This applies for every nation, so some younger countries like Montenegro have significantly less events in their calculations compared to a country like France. Also, I lied, there's 5 things, this is just for the Summer Olympics. So after all those rules and regulations, the only thing left to do was calculate the percentages for each sport for all the 208 Olympic nations. Yeah, it took me a fair while, but it was all worth it to give you these 2 maps. Let's do the individual sports first. The countries in black are the nations that have won an individual medal, while the ones in gray have never. There are actually quite a few of these countries, like Bangladesh, which I was very surprised about, and even Nicaragua. Obviously, I couldn't calculate anything for these nations, so I left them out, waiting and hoping to see their Olympic glory one of these days. As for the countries that have stood on the Olympic podiums, let's reveal their most successful sport one continent at a time. Feel free to pause at any time to fully analyze, and also, I didn't make these borders, so please don't get mad at me. So first, Oceania. I don't think there's really any surprises here. Australia is good at swimming, Kiwis can sail, Samoans are strong, and Tongans are good in the rain. Next is Asia, home to the country that has the most dominant sport. China has won 60 medals in table tennis, a sport that has only had 37 total events. In fact, the nation has won an absurd 32 out of 37 gold medals in table tennis. Just an absolute complete mastery of that sport. Wrestling is also clearly very popular in the Caucasus, and they are also very clearly good at it. Europe is next. The UK is a great example of why this ranking system is useful. With only 5 events per Olympics, tennis would have no hope of beating out other sports for the most medals, even though Great Britain clearly excels in it. Looking at these medal percentages allows tennis to be accurately represented, though watch out for triathlon after it reaches the 15 event threshold in Paris. In continental Europe, we see our only countries with modern pentathlon as its most successful sport, along with the smallest country to win a medal, San Marino, and its best sport, shooting. On to Africa. Many nations here have yet to win a medal, but those who've had seem to mostly enjoy track and field, along with a couple canoeing and taekwondo medals, which I find very interesting. South America has a nice mix of many sports, 7 different ones to be exact. Going into this challenge, I was very interested to see what Argentina's sport would be, and boxing wasn't what I was expecting. Finally, we get to North America. As a Canadian, I'm not surprised that rowing is our most successful sport. Our most impressive rowing medal is probably the single sculls bronze of Silken Laumann. In May of 1992, Laumann was involved in a bad rowing accident where she severely broke her leg. The accident was so bad that she thought she might lose her leg. Despite her injury, after 5 surgeries and only 3 months, Laumann returned and won a medal at the Barcelona Games. Incredible. Anyways, what does surprise me is that diving is the US's most successful. Out of all the sports the US wins in, diving is its most dominant? Well, it's certainly not because of recent history, but if you look a little further, you start to see why. The state just absolutely clobbered every country in the early days of diving. I mean, just look at this nearly 30-year stretch of women's 3-meter springboard. Insane. The US had a monopoly over this Olympic sport for 80 years until something changed. China started to compete. Ever since 1988, China has been the one dominating the sport, winning the most medals in diving in every Olympics since. Despite their lack of recent success, the United States were still so mind-boggling ahead that diving is their most successful sport. Though this probably will change soon, maybe even in Paris, as swimming is quickly closing in on its lead. After looking at the entire map, one thing that sticks out to me is that combat sports are extremely popular. With its individuality along with limited equipment needs, many countries from around the world can excel in these sports, and this map proves it. Let's switch to team sports. This time I won't make you wait to see all of them. This map is honestly pretty much par to the course of what I was expecting. The US is supreme in basketball, India and Pakistan are awesome at field hockey, Brazil controls the beaches, on and on. The one thing I was surprised about was that South Korea is successful in handball. I thought handball was more of a European sport, as you can see, but I guess it has its fans in Korea. If anybody from there or who has knowledge about this can tell me about it, that would be awesome. Anyways, one last thing I'll say is big ups to Paraguay, who despite never winning an individual medal, won silver in 2004 for football. Or soccer, depending your stance on that. So there you have it. If you want a list of every country's most successful sport, you can check out the spreadsheet in the bio. Every country's best sport is bolded, along with the percentage of medals they won per event in that sport. There's also PDF versions of each map. If you enjoyed the video, please like and even subscribe. Let me know what surprised you the most in these 2 maps, and if you agree with me that total medals should be prioritized or should gold medals keep its supremacy. Thank you so much for watching.